Kevin Byard, Titans safety, went on Bussin' with the Boys recently, Barstool Sports podcast, talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers, said that oddly enough, he grew up a Steelers fan and actually was a little pissed off at them during the draft process. He told Bussin' with the Boys, I remember being at the Senior Bowl, the Steelers were one of the only teams that didn't meet with me. I was kind of hurt on it. I was kind of hurt about it, And I love Mike Tomlin, obviously. I got a lot of respect for him. But at the same time, I knew they needed a safety. And then he went on to tell the story about how the Steelers, 6 picks before Byard was actually selected by the Titans, the Steelers drafted Sean Davis. Clearly didn't work out. We all know the story of Sean Davis, turned into Minkah Fitzpatrick after an injury. The rest is a sad story for Davis, a good story for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still, Byard talked about the Steelers. This whole conversation started as they talked about, potential other teams that he could go to if he is released by the Titans, because the Titans want him to take a pay cut from his, I believe, $19 million cap hit this season. Named the Pittsburgh Steelers as hey, I did grow up a Steelers fan, possibly. You look at that, you say, hey, that's, if you're holding on to that, maybe there's still a possibility here. Or you're still looking at it as okay, what are we doing? Why do we, Taylor Lewan's got to let go of the Pittsburgh Steelers stuff.
Yeah. Look, if he's not willing to take a pay cut for the Titans, I can't imagine why he'd be willing to take a pay cut for the Steelers, even if he grew up a fan. I think it'd be a really good fit, football wise. Obviously, I'll take the all-pro safety. That's nice. But yeah, no, if he, I don't know if he wants $19 million or more. Steelers don't have $19 million to throw around.
No.
So yeah, it doesn't really make sense from a financial standpoint. It is kind of a bummer. You think about, there were a couple of Steelers teams immediately after he got drafted that could have used a player of his caliber in the defensive backfield. He could have been, I want to say a game changer. I don't know. There were some. So he was drafted in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, I believe 2017.
Yeah. I mean, you just look through you can just go through Sports Reference and look at where the Steelers ranked in pass defense in 17 and 18, and those were good teams. Those were league leading offenses that were just, quite frankly, undone by really bad pass defenses. And having an all-pro safety back there probably could have. I mean, they're at least playing in one more Super Bowl, probably.
Yeah.
If not having won one.
Yeah, it's a total game changer. That was the, you look back at it, dude, and it was the Artie Burns, Ross Cockrell years. And you're just what would those teams be if it wasn't Artie Burns, Sean Davis, and Ross Cockrell? If Morgan Burnett didn't have to give it a shot in Pittsburgh and see what happened. Mike Mitchell didn't have to give it a shot and see what happened. I think Mike Mitchell worked out just fine, I guess. But
he was one of the. He was one of the best players in that secondary, and he
was the best player in that secondary, and and he never played again after the Steelers, which shows you exactly. I guess he played a year with the Colts, but it's still it was the end of Mike Mitchell, which shows you how bad that was. I agree. I think that changes everything, and on top of that, I mean, maybe because you already have Terrell Edmunds, but maybe you don't draft Terrell Edmunds if you have Kevin Byard and whoever you picked up afterwards. And maybe Minkah Fitzpatrick still becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler. And then you're rocking the Minkah Fitzpatrick, Kevin Byard in the safety position with, eventually Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr. and Levi Wallace at corner. Imagine where they are right now. And don't get me wrong, I think DeMonte Casey is a great safety. I think Keanu Neal is going to be very impressive this season. But I mean, it doesn't hold any ground to Minkah Fitzpatrick and Kevin Byard, what that could have been if they actually did draft him over Sean Davis, which I think, if anything, unfortunately just shows how bad Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert were at drafting defensive backs. They were. I've never seen a coach GM combo that has just missed so many times in the secondary and just continuously tried. Just maybe this guy. Nope, this guy stinks too. It was just miss after miss after miss. What could have been. As for him signing right now, I agree. The Steelers have $13 million in cap space. They could obviously clear up a bunch more if they need to. But to go out and get a guy for a position that they already have filled with 2 guys, I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like at this point, we're talking about like, is Trey Norwood the odd man out? Which last year, like Trey Norwood was like a guaranteed spot. You didn't really know where he was going to be, but you were hoping he turned into something. Now you're talking about quality guys who might be on their way out of Pittsburgh because there's not enough depth at the position. There's just no need for, and I get it. Byard's an upgrade at all times, but you'd have to move Keanu Neal to like a full-time inside linebacker. He'd never play safety.
Right.
Demonte KZ would be that guy. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Which is kind of, it's kind of a shame. I mean, like Byard, like is going to, if the Titans don't want to pay him, someone's going to pay him.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know, he would be a really good fit. You would make an already, I think it's going to be an elite defense, like even better. But yeah, just you can't. I don't know. It doesn't seem worth the effort to try to clear the cap space for a guy who, for a position that you, like you said, you've already got filled, and I don't know, you've made your moves. Like,
yep.
Yep.
No need for it. Unfortunately, if they went out and did it, phenomenal move. Will they go out and do it? No. Unless he hits the open market and Omar Khan makes a phone call and he's like, "Hey, you want to sign here for like $7 million?" He's like, "Yeah,
right.
Sounds good." Okay.
So, yeah, that'd be quite a hometown discount. I guess he's not from Pittsburgh, right?
No, he's not even from Pittsburgh. He just grew up
Did he explain how he grew up a Steelers fan? Was it just
everybody grows up a Steelers fan? Just
yeah.
It's just what it is. If you don't grow up in Boston, okay,
well, like I don't know. There are a bunch of people I know of who like not that I grew up with, but like people whose parents like weren't from Pittsburgh, but they grew up in the 70s watching football, and
yeah,
when the Steelers were awesome. Like it was, so if they didn't have a team that they were already cemented with, they were just like, okay, I'll go with the team who wins a lot. And
yeah, the way I look at it is, if you were a defensive player, or if you were somebody who wanted to play defense in the NFL, if that was your dream, if you grew up in the early 2000s, which is when Byard grew up, or the 70s, you were a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because that was the defense. Like you wanted to be Troy Polamalu, you wanted to be Ryan Clark, you wanted to be James Harrison. That's who you wanted to play for Dick LeBeau. Like that's who you just became a Steelers fan because of that. I think he did say that he admired Troy Polamalu, but like everybody admires Troy Polamalu.
Right.
Nobody's like being a you want to know who I hate, man? Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, that guy stunk. Like who needs him?
Nah.
Yeah, it's also just interesting how the Steelers kind of carried a little more. Maybe it's because of how good they were in the 70s, but a little more like cultural power than like those. There were good Ravens defenses in the 70s. They were like the Patriots. I don't think carried that kind of weight. I'm trying to think of who else was good around then.
In the 70s?
No, in like the 2000s.
Oh, the early 2000s. The Eagles were real good, but some people did, but even so, like, no, it was kind of like a Donovan McNabb TO thing. Like if you weren't, you liked those guys, but you didn't like the Eagles. Yeah, I don't know. I will say that Ben said it a couple years ago when the Steelers beat the Cowboys in Dallas. He said that the Steelers are America's team. And I was like, oh, but at the same time, like somebody had to say it. Like the Steelers, the Steelers are America's team.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think the America's team thing is kind of obnoxious from Dallas.
It's annoying.
So, like,
yeah,
I'm fine with anyone taking shots at that, but I don't know if there's an America's team.
I don't want to say that they're like, like America. I don't think anybody should be America's team, but I think that they are. Like, if you were to add up the fan bases of all the teams, I think the Steelers have the largest one. And if they don't, whoever's first is going to shock me, and it's going to be neck and neck.
Oh, it'd probably be like Dallas or something.
Dallas would be up there. They would be the other one that I think would be like, it'd be a close 1-2.
But I think also if you like polled how many people, like who's the most hated team in the country, Dallas would also be up there.
Oh, and I think the Steelers would be very close as well. I think the Steelers would be, it's what you like. But Dallas, don't get me wrong, Dallas is annoying. Like even my buddies who are Dallas fans, I'm just like, okay, man, I don't care. They stink. Okay. Yeah. Dak Prescott isn't good. In a week, you'll think he's good, and then you'll think he's not good. It's the best. It's the same thing. Dallas fans, I will never compare them to Steelers fans. I'm not looking for the show to end or for everybody to hate me.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't
we're not doing that. But yeah, they're probably 1-2 most liked, most hated teams in America. And which is cool. Which is probably how Kevin Byard became a Steelers fan. Long story short, full circle.